Today we're going to be talking with you a little bit about the Sakai Native Rubrics project, which is a farm project that we've started, the Apereo Funding and Resource Management Group. My name's Wilma Hodges. I'm from Longsight, and I also have Kyle Blythe here from NYU, who's going to help me out a little bit as we go through some of the slides. So, Kyle, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kyle Blythe. I'm the product analyst at New York University. I worked as part of the new gradebook project, what we were calling Gradebook NG for a while, the new core gradebook in Sakai 11. And I'm happy to be able to present on this rubrics project with Wilma.
Okay, great. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background of how this came about, we had heard from several clients that, they would like to have rubrics in Sakai, and not a lot of folks wanted to necessarily go to the trouble of having a third-party tool to integrate with Sakai to be able to do the rubrics. So what a lot of our clients were looking for were more native rubrics that are kind of built into the LMS itself. And it's a big project, so it wasn't one that maybe a lot of folks were willing to undertake as a single institution, but we did have a few folks come forward to say, hey, we would fund part of that. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to collaborate through the farm group to raise community funding for this, for a feature that a lot of people are interested in, but maybe no one institution wanted to, kind of take ownership of completely. So we started putting the word around to get people to collaborate on the project, and we wanted to really build on a lot of the work that had been done in Gradebook NG. I don't know, I'm sure maybe quite a few of you folks have seen Sakai 11, have seen the new gradebook, but it's a pretty snazzy tool, and it's got a very nice modern look and feel to it. And so not only did we want the functionality of rubrics to tie in really closely with the gradebook, but we also wanted it to have a consistent look. And Kyle, I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so we were really happy that Wilma reached out to us, to sort of work together with her on some initial mock-ups for this new rubrics functionality, because we think that, with Sakai 11 just coming out the door, and as I'm sure many of you have seen, the user interface in Sakai is now absolutely gorgeous. And with the work that we did on Gradebook NG, we really think that moving forward, design consistency is going to be a key piece of work that gets done for the LMS. We really want to be able to ensure that it feels consistent and uniform throughout the whole system, and that as new functionality gets implemented, that it plays nicely with existing functionality and workflows, and that it starts to feel like a cohesive whole. So we're really excited to be able to add this bit of functionality to the gradebook.
Yeah, and one thing that kind of goes along with that, that we wanted to try to incorporate as part of the whole design process is to really, talk to users. We did a little bit of user testing to see, how people responded to the mock-ups for the rubrics in the gradebook. So we really want to incorporate that user feedback into the whole design and development process, so that at the end we get something that's very useful and pleasing to folks to look at on the screen, something intuitive. We were also hoping that a project like this could sort of lay the groundwork for some future functionality related to learning analytics and learning outcomes, and being able to tie those to rubrics. That's really beyond the scope of what we've mapped out at this point, but we wanted to build it in such a way that it could be built upon further in the future, to pull in those other types of initiatives later. So right now there's sort of 3 phases that we've outlined for the work. And the first phase, and this is kind of the very high level summary, but the first phase deals with creating the basic grading interface for the rubric within Gradebook NG. And so it would work with items that are created within the gradebook. And that phase would kind of map out the, and I'll show you screenshots in a moment, maps out the actual grading rubric itself. And we're looking at developing that probably starting, very shortly, like by September, and then hopefully wrapping that up by the end of the calendar year in December, if not sooner. We were initially thinking that phase 2 would happen after that. It would happen, starting in January of next year. But actually, I've recently spoken with some of the folks at Unicon, and it looks like we might be splitting up some of the development here. So they might be able to develop phase 2 concurrently with phase 1. So that would also start in September. And phase 2 deals with integrating the rubric grading interface with the assignment tool, because we heard from a lot of folks that was, a really essential piece. I mean, that's what people use the rubric to grade in most cases. So we really wanted to be able to tie that in quickly. So that was great news that that Unicon was available to do that work, and that we had an institution that was willing to fund some of that work to happen a little bit quicker. And then phase 3 deals with rubric management and sharing, so that it's possible to sort of share rubrics among instructors at the same institution, or maybe make them public templates so that other instructors can copy them into their courses, or maybe distribute rubrics for a particular program or department. So we wanted to build some of that functionality in, and that would happen in phase 3. We also wanted to be able to extend the rubric grading capability into the forum tool, so that people who grade a lot of discussion forums would be able to utilize the rubric functionality in that tool as well. So that's phase 3 is, we're looking at, that wouldn't start until probably January, but that's sooner than we anticipated, since we're kind of getting a leg up on phase 2. So right now, and this is breaking news, I haven't even updated the farm webpage yet, we do have phase 1 and 2 fully funded. So we're very excited about that. We've also got partial funding for phase 3. So at this point, and there's actually several institutions who've indicated interest in funding phase 3. So it looks like we may get full funding for that. We just haven't determined, who and how much at this point. But phase 1 and 2 are kind of have the green light, and phase 3 looks extremely promising. So hopefully I'll have some further updates on that shortly. But so it looks like all 3 phases should be a go-ahead, and we should be able to implement these fairly quickly. So I thought now we would turn to some pictures, because, pictures are worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to show you guys some mock-ups that we have courtesy of Kyle there at NYU. He put together some really nice mock-ups, and some of these were what we used when we did a little bit of user testing. We probably will do a little bit more usability testing, just to kind of fine-tune the design a little bit. And I'm just showing you the phase 1 mock-ups at this point. Phase 2 and 3, we have a little bit of rough, design work done on those, but those again need a little more attention before they're really good for mass consumption. So I'll just start off with these. But basically, this is the gradebook NG, or the new gradebook as it's called, interface, and the rubric functionality would be when you add a new item, it would be an option here. So what we have here is a kind of the traditional points model, which is what you have now when you go to add an item, but it would give you the option to choose to grade with a rubric instead of traditional points. So once you make that selection, then you would be able to either choose an existing rubric, or you could create a new one. If you choose an existing one, it would load it for you here, and you would see the rubric that's already been outlined, and it could be assigned points, and you can modify any of these criteria or the different levels, the different points for each level. That's all user editable. or you could create a brand new rubric if this one wasn't something that you wanted to work from. So in creating a new rubric, again, you get to click on the criterion, and you can even add a description. You can change the name of it. You can modify the number of levels. This, I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit small here. I don't know if you can enlarge the content area in Big Blue Button, but you can sort of click on that in the center to kind of split it and add another ranking level in between those two levels. You can also add more rows for criteria that you would be grading on. And then again, there's point values associated with each level of ranking, so you can modify those as well. And then the rubrics can be saved to be reused. So you would give it a title, and you could save it to your course. Now, once the rubric is attached to a particular item, you'll see there, and again, it's very faint, but there's sort of a ghost rubric that shows up in the column for that item. And that just sort of indicates to the user that there's a rubric associated with that. So if you mouse over it, it will actually show you a little tooltip telling you that this gradebook item is rubric based. So when you click on a particular cell, it would pull up the actual rubric for you to grade. And these would all be clickable. You could click directly on, for if the research criterion was, full points, you would click on full points, and it would highlight that cell and plug in the points for you. Although the instructor would also have the opportunity to provide either comments on an individual criterion that are, you can edit those independently, overall comments, and an adjustment to the overall score if needed. So the ample opportunity to sort of customize, or you could just simply pick the cells that are appropriate to the scoring, and the scoring would plug in there for you. So once that's done, you'll see it adds it up for you, and then you would record the score to save that, and it would show up in the column. So that's kind of how it would look, and then you could cycle through to the next student if you wanted to keep grading within that kind of pop-up window. We would also look at maybe adding rubrics under either settings, or we were also looking at possibly having another tab for managing rubrics. And that was something we were going to test a little bit more with some folks to get some user feedback on that, as to whether or not it would be more intuitive to have it as a section under settings, or if it would need kind of its own little tab. If there's rubrics in a course, maybe that tab would become available to you. So that's something we're just kind of playing with at this point. But those are the phase one images that we have right now. At this point, what I'd like to do is just kind of open it up for questions. I was really hoping this could be more of an interactive session where people can ask questions. So if you have any questions, feel free. If you have a microphone, unmute yourself and ask, or if you don't have a microphone, you want to type something into the chat, that's fine too. And Kyle, also, if there's anything you'd like to add.
Hi, this is Charles from Illinois State University. Actually, I don't have any questions because you guys seem to have addressed all the thoughts I was having as you were going through the screenshots. I think this looks great.
Thank you.
And I honestly don't have any questions or suggestions at this point because it looks really good.
Well, that's great to hear. We love to hear good feedback. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, I see a couple of questions in the chat. Well, Dee Dee's asking if the slides will be posted for closer review. Sure, yeah, I can put that out there, and so you can get a little bit more of a close-up view. I'll post the link to the slideshow in the email list. Let's see. Sharon wants to know, will the rubric work with group assignments? It should, because it's going to be tied to the assignment grading. So depending on what type of assignment it is, it should work equally well with either individual assignments or group assignments. And let's see, Holly wants to know if the rubrics would be visible within a lessons item. We haven't really gone to, sort of incorporating the lessons tool as part of this. It wasn't in the 3 phases. Now, it is possible to put, an assignment into a lesson, and then the rubric would be part of the assignment. But as far as it showing up right on the lesson page, that's not really part of the scope for right now. Lessons does have some peer evaluation rubrics already built into it as part of that tool. So I don't know if that could be something that you would use in conjunction or instead of, depending on what you exactly wanted to be able to show. But at this point, it would be something that students would see when they get into the assignment itself. They would be able to, if the instructor allows it, for them to view what the rubric looks like before they submit, so that they would know what they're going to be assessed on. They could kind of, look at the different criteria as they're developing their assignment, so that when they get it back, it's a little bit more useful as far as the feedback that they receive. Let's see, Laura Sierra wants to know, can rubrics be shared between users? That's planned for the 3rd phase of the project, the rubric managing and sharing features. So we want to make it so that people can make rubrics into templates and can share those templates with any other user, either in a user that's in a course that they have in common, where kind of like when you share a question bank or something, or possibly something that works with the hierarchy, where you could share within a department, or any user at a certain level, or that's part of an organization. So we haven't quite worked out the details yet on how that would happen, but we definitely want to incorporate sharing, because I think that's a real strength to rubrics, is particularly if you have programs that look to a common, kind of grading scheme, then you want to be able to share that among a department or a group of users. So yes, definitely that's in the works. Okay, let's see. Holly wants to know, let's see, the rubric would be seen within the assignment itself. Yes, that's correct. And students can also see it in the gradebook. Yes, they would be able to see the rubric when they go to the gradebook to view their feedback. It would pull up basically a view-only version of what you saw from the instructor perspective. They would see the highlighted cells and how many points they got for each criterion. And then if there's any instructor comments, they would be able to view those as well. So the whole rubric would be available for the student to see and review. Let's see, Nadine wants to know, can we see a progress of a student for all his classes? That kind of gets into more of the analytics and learning outcomes that we're hoping this work will feed into, but it's not currently within the scope. Laura wants to know, when do they see the rubric? I would anticipate that would be instructor controlled, so that the instructor would be able to indicate when they set up the assignment if they want it to be visible before students submit, or if they want it to be visible only after they receive the feedback. So that would be a choice at the assignment level. Would students be able to see the rubric before it has been filled out? Yeah, that's what I was indicating. When they go into a blank assignment, they haven't submitted the assignment yet. If the instructor says, yes, students are allowed to see the rubric, then they would see sort of a blank rubric without any fields selected yet. In the grade book, yes, and I don't see why that wouldn't be an option as well. I mean, we'd want students to be able to see the criteria that they're going to be assessed on. So I would think that would be a choice that they would have in either location. Okay, Brad wants to know, has there been any discussion of peer review rubrics for assignments which support peer review? We haven't really discussed that piece of it. There is the peer review component right now that you can attach a file to. You can't really attach a rubric to it. But that might be something to look at once we've kind of figured out how the interface is going to function from the instructor side, if that's something that could be also extended to the peer review functionality. But we hadn't really included that peer review piece in the scope of the current work. Okay, and we do have a comment about forums. Charles is mentioning that it'll be useful for those using forums before it's tied in. Yes, you can, because the it's going to go into the gradebook first. If you're tying a forum column to a gradebook item, you should be able to use the rubric in the gradebook to have students get the rubric feedback. So you still kind of two separate areas where you have to first create the forum and then tie it to a manually created item in the gradebook. But because it works with the manually graded items in the gradebook, students, when they go there, should be able to see the rubric with their scores. And let's see, Laura is indicating that maybe the rubric could be downloaded, saved, and attached. That's a good point. You could maybe print off the rubric and attach it as a file. So that would be another workaround. So we still have a good amount of time left if anybody has any additional questions. Or Kyle, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add. I feel like I've been talking a lot here, so.
I don't think I have anything to add. I mean, we're very excited for this work. This, I think, is a much needed feature in Sakai, and we're really excited to be able to see rubrics become a native part of it. So awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it will make a lot of faculty happy. That's what somebody posted in the chat there. It is something that people have wanted for a long time, so I think it's definitely going to expand the functionality and the ease of use for grading for faculty. Just to be able to have that at their fingertips without having to necessarily worry about a separate integration that's a separate licensing fee and may or may not work when you upgrade and that sort of thing. So we definitely think that this is going to be very welcome for a lot of people. One thing that I would like to comment on is the farm aspect of this. We certainly couldn't do this if it was just one institution with an idea. So I really applaud all of the folks who've come forward to help fund this work. I think it's really a testament to the community, the Sakai community, coming together to build these things as a group. So I think it's we're still kind of making it up as we go along with the whole farm concept, but I think that this is a really good illustration of how a lot of folks coming together can really build something that's of value to the whole community. So thank you everyone who has contributed to the work and who may yet contribute in phase 3. Okay, so I do have one more question here. So the big question, when do you think this will become available? Do you expect release to happen at the end of your proposed development time? What I would expect, just given the overall release cycle, development cycle for Sakai is that once the development period ends, the software, the code for this feature would be available, but it wouldn't be part of the core release yet. So if people wanted to install it, much like you would a contrib tool, and sort of be kind of a first adopter, you would have that option. But because obviously it would all be part of the community, so you could install it, but it wouldn't be part of your standard release. It probably wouldn't go into necessarily like a point release for Sakai. It probably wouldn't appear as part of the core code until the next version release, which would be Sakai 12. So sometime next year, possibly whenever Sakai 12 comes out, it would be part of that big package. But you would have the option to adopt it sooner if you wanted to go ahead and install it as a patch. Let's see, so you could potentially roll this out next summer when we update to 11. Yes, potentially it would be available, at least the first couple of phases. I don't know about phase 3, but phases 1 and 2, we anticipate the development for those being done probably around December of this year. So, so yes, you would, if those, stay on track timeline-wise, and you wanted to adopt it in the summer when you upgrade, that should be just as as easy as adding a contrib tool or some other contributed patch to your installation. You're welcome. Thanks, Dee Dee. I think we all share your excitement. I think rubrics have been kind of a long time coming, so so it's good to see them finally getting some attention. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I don't really see any reason to keep you folks. I appreciate you making the time to come to the webinar today and get sort of the big update on rubrics. And again, I'll be updating the farm website. It's actually a little outdated because I just got some recent news about some folks contributing to the project. But if you go to farm.apereo.org, and look there under the Sakai Native Rubrics, we'll be posting some additional information as it becomes available, and I will also put a link to the Google Slides from today's presentation. So if you want to take a closer look at some of those mock-ups, feel free. I'll also put a link as a reply on the email list, so folks can get to it that way. But again, thank you all for being here, and it's good to see that folks are excited about this. So thanks again.